Hello everybody! In today's video we are going to solve the 2019 Standard Level Biology Final Exam paper. Like in case of some of the previous videos, I'm gonna indicate the textbooks related pages in a yellow box on each slide. And let's start to do the first exercise, which is entitled The Predator and its Prey. The painting depicts the meeting of an owl bringing down a hare, a herbivorous mammal, and a dog. Describe one feature visible in the picture which shows that the owl is a bird, while the hare and the dog belong to mammals. Alright, so the owl is a bird because, and one visible feature should be named in here, because it has feathers or it has a beak. Both of them would be accepted. While the dog and the hare are mammals because actually their bodies are covered with fur. Write the number of the statements below in the appropriate parts of the Venn diagram. It has image-forming camera eyes. That is true for all of them. In the lungs, the air is passed along air tubules or capillaries. We know that in birds, actually, the gas exchange occurs in air capillaries, so that is true for the owl. Its strong canines show its predatory lifestyle. That's gonna be true for the dog, which is in here for. The claws on its legs help it to catch its prey. That's true for the dog and to the owl as well, so it will come to this intersection, 5. It has regulated body temperature, nearly constant. Okay, all of them are warm-blooded animals, so number 6 comes next to 2. It feeds its offsprings with her milk. That is true for the mammals, so the hare and the dog. So 7 belongs to this part. The digestion of its main food substance is helped by cellulose digesting bacteria. Hare is a herbivorous animal, and actually these bacteria help the animal to break down cellulose. The surface of its sternum is enlarged by a gill. Gill is a special characteristic feature of birds. It is a predator. That's going to be true for the owl and the dog, so number 10 belongs to this part. Moving on to the second exercise, which is a highly prioritized topic, we might say, and the title is Ecological Interactions. Identify and name the following ecological interactions. And it's important that you have to actually write down the words, the abbreviations are not enough. Okay, first, the squirrel likes taking up residence in holes abandoned by woodpeckers. So what is happening in this kind of interaction? It's going to be positive for the squirrel, sorry, you have already seen the solution, and neutral for the woodpecker. So the type of interaction which is present here is commensalism, when one partner benefits and the other is not really affected. The broom rape sucks the organic substances from the root of the sunflower. It is going to be positive for one and actually negative for the other. Therefore, this kind of interaction is called parasitism. Numerous tropical orchids live on the branches of giant trees to reach the scattered light penetrating through the foliage. The branches serve merely as a support while the nutrients are taken up from the rainwater, trickling down the tree. Okay, so that is going to be positive for the orchids for sure, and neutral for the branches. So this is going to be commensalism again. The bean and pea plants accommodate nitrogen-fixing bacteria in their root nodules, which in turn supply the host plant with nitrogenous compounds. That's a very easy one, positive, positive, so it's symbiosis. Most plants cannot sprout underneath the walnut tree because of the germination-inhibiting substances released by the walnut tree. Okay, the type of interaction here is called antibiosis, and this is a kind of interaction when one organism harms the other. Juglon is actually the substance that hinders the growth and actually root hair formation of certain plants. It's a very, very interesting research field. In lichens, the unicellular algae and fungal hyphae help each other. That's definitely a symbiosis, positive, 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 positive for both of the partners. The population explosion of the gypsy moth caterpillars is often prevented by the cuckoo, since this is the only bird not repelled by the dense fur of the caterpillar. Okay, this is going to be predation because 1 organism is benefiting from the interaction and the other one is harmed. In the alimentary canal of the common wall, masses of cellulose digesting bacteria live. Okay, so this is positive for both, therefore the type of interaction is called symbiosis. Before we finish the exercise, it's important to mention that I always gave one answer, but if you check the key, you can see some alternative words that would also be accepted. For example, instead of symbiosis, you can write mutualism, or if you wrote feeding relationship instead of predation, that is also a good answer, so please check the key always. Okay, moving on to the third exercise. Bladderwort and conferva. In the picture of the left, the flowering bladderwort common in the freshwaters of Hungary can be seen. The picture in the middle shows the tiny bladders of its modified underwater leaves, which are capable of capturing and digesting small crabs. The picture on the right shows the microscopic view of the conferva, a filamentous green algae living around the bladderwort. The leaves of the bladderwort are green, but the plant requires the nitrogenous compounds derived from the aquatic arthropods captured. Based on the description above, what are the characteristic features of the bladderwort? Fill in the gaps of the following text with the suitable words. So it turned out that the bladderwort is a carnivorous plant, like the Venus flytrap or the pitcher plant or the sundew that we discussed during the lessons. So let's fill in the text. The energy source of the bladderwort is the sunlight. Therefore, with regard to its energy source, it is a very easy phototrophic organism. It is able to rely on carbon dioxide or carbonic acid dissolved in water to manufacture its organic matters. Therefore, with regard to its carbon source, it is an autotrophic organism. However, it obtains its nitrogen from the organic matter of the insect prey. Therefore, according to its nitrogen source, it can be regarded as a heterotrophic. Its bright yellow flowers indicate that the pollen grains are transferred to the stigma by insects or pollinating animals. Fertilization is brought about with the help of pollen tube formed inside the carpel. Okay, we know that that's the female reproductive part of a flower. Compare the structure of bladderwort and conferva. Write the appropriate letter into the empty box. It is a living organism with differentiated tissues. Both of them are living organisms, but the conferva is an algae. Therefore, it has a thallus body, so no real tissues are present there, so only the bladderwort can be the good answer. Therefore, we write A in here. It has seeds. That's also true for the bladderwort, but not for the conferva. It has cells surrounded with membrane and cell wall. That's going to be true for both. It has cell nucleus. Again, that is true for both of them. It is a parasitic organism. That's going to be D, neither of them. It is made up of branching filaments. That's true for B. Okay. Continuing the first exercise, bones and muscles. The letters in the picture indicate some of the flexor and extensor muscles of a running person. Which muscles are extensors? Write the letter of the correct combination of letters in the box. Okay, so we can immediately state that the triceps, the quadriceps, and this lower leg muscle are going to be the extensors. So the good answer, B, D, and E, which is going to be B. The position, the angle between them, of which long bones is changed by the contraction of muscle B. Name the two bones. Okay, so the first bone is called humerus, and the second bone, we know that we can either name the radius or the ulna. I just wrote here radius. The position of which long bones is changed by the contraction of muscle C. So we are observing this, and these bones are needed, so the femur and the tibia or fibula, both of them would be good. The coordinated working of the muscles is controlled by the central nervous system. Where do the neurons, whose fibers terminate on the muscle fibers of the limbs, originate from? Okay, we know that it is the gray matter of the spinal cord, so A is the correct answer for this question. Where does the nerve tract responsible for the initiation of voluntary movements originate from? Actually, it is the cerebral cortex, so B must be written in here. The patellar or knee-jerk reflex is often examined by doctors. Which letter in the picture indicates the muscle which is involved in this examination? If you don't remember it, that was the picture that we analyzed when we actually performed this practice in class, the patellar reflex. So the muscle which is involved in the examination is called the quadriceps, which is D. Okay, so before we answer these questions, let's clarify what is this whole knee-jerk reflex is about. Under your kneecap, there is a tendon, patellar tendon, and when we hit that tendon, actually you perform the kicking movement because the quadriceps stretched. Describe the purpose of examining the patellar reflex. The purpose is to check whether the spinal nerves are healthy or not, because if the patellar reflex is not working properly, there might be a problem with the central nervous system. So that's the aim. What is the original biological function of the patellar reflex? To maintain the sufficient tone of the extensor muscle. You are well advised to do some warm-up exercises before doing strenuous physical activities. Describe briefly what is happening in the joints during warming up and what type of accidents can be prevented by it. Many possible answers can be given in here. I stick to those kind of answers that were indicated in the key. So the tendons and ligaments are slightly expanded, joint circulation are increased, and the chances of strains are reduced. Exercise 5, the beginning of genetics. Some characteristic features of the inheritance of traits were already recognized by Count Imre Festetics at the beginning of 19th century, as he crossed together different breeds of sheep on his estate near Kőszeg and examined the appearance of character forms in the offspring. Okay, we can see two pictures. One of them is about Imre Festetics and the other one is Gregor Mendel. Fill in the gaps in the following text with the suitable words listed below. You do not need to use all of the words, and one word can be used more than once. Okay. By repeatedly crossing closely related individuals, Festetics managed to achieve that the individuals carried the same forms of a gene, which is to say that he received pure breeding, in more modern term, homozygous individuals. Festetics observed that if individuals belonging to two pure breeding lines showing the alternative forms of a character were crossed, the first filial generation is uniform, and the recessive character form seemingly disappears. So what happened in here is the following. Okay, homozygous dominant and homozygous recessive parents were crossed, and in the first filial generation, all of the offsprings were heterozygous and all of them showed the dominant phenotype. However, in the second filial generation, the lost character form reappears again. It was not until 50 years later that Mendel described that, in case of monohybrid crosses, the ratio of individuals showing the dominant and the recessive forms of a character is 3:1. So what does it mean? It means that in the second filial generation, quickly we make a Punnett square. Okay, so 3 of them will show the dominant phenotype and 1 offspring is showing the recessive one. If you look at 4, so the ratio is going to be 3:1. The ratio can be explained by assuming that the phenotype of homozygous individuals is the same as that of the heterozygous individuals. The latter makes up, obviously, 50% of the second F2 generation. Mendel must have been influenced by the method applied by Festetics, but Mendel was also able to determine whether the individual showing the dominant form of the character was homozygous or it carried the recessive allele as well. In order to do so, he crossed the individuals whose genotype was to be determined with a homozygous recessive individual, and if both alternative forms appeared among the offspring, it proved that the individual was heterozygous. This is the principal idea of the test cross. Okay. Exercise 6, the starch and the cellulose. The picture shows the demonstration of the presence of starch in a slice of bread and in a potato half. Provide the name of the chemical that gives the color reaction with starch, as seen in the picture. So the chemical is iodine, and you can simply write Lugol solution. Although both starch and cellulose are made up of glucose molecules, the features of these three chemicals are very different. Write the number of the statements into the appropriate parts of the Venn diagram according to which ones the statement refers to. So we have here starch, cellulose, and glucose. Just to make sure, glucose is a monosaccharide, cellulose and starch are polysaccharides. Starch is made up of alpha-glucose monomers, cellulose is made up of beta-glucose monomers. In between glucose and starch, we have maltose and cellobiose in between the other two. So let's look at the statements. It can be dissolved in hot water. Okay, so that is only true for the glucose and the starch, but not for the cellulose. So number 2 will belong to this part. It tastes sweet. We know that polysaccharides are non-sweet, but glucose is a sweet monomer, so that's gonna be in here. Bacteria are able to break it down into monosaccharides. That's gonna be true for starch and cellulose, so it's in here. Typical substance the cell walls are made up of, that is cellulose, 5. It is a stored food reserve, that's true for the starch in plants. It is a carbohydrate, all of them are carbohydrates, so number 7 will be in the middle. It is absorbed from the intestine into the blood. That's gonna be glucose, again, monosaccharide. It is absorbed, it is the major component of flour. It's gonna be true for starch, so number 9 is in here. It is a macromolecule found in animals and humans, similar in its structure to starch. Also, it is one of the storage substances of the liver and muscles. Give the name of this molecule. It is the glycogen, which can also be found in fungi. And both of them are glucose polymers, so they're made up of alpha-glucose monomers. But don't forget what we have discussed about amylose, amylopectin, and 1,4,1,6 glycosidic bonds that can help you to refresh your knowledge on the differences in between the two molecules. The cellulose is indigestible for humans, whereas starch is broken down by 2 types of digestive juices. Give the name of these digestive juices. Okay, so the first one is the saliva, and the second one is the pancreatic juice. Exercise 7. The human skin. The skin is a sensory organ in addition to having protective and regulatory functions. Study the diagram of the human skin carefully. The functions of the skin are listed below. Write the letters indicating the different parts of the skin into the boxes next to the functions they perform. Alright, so first let's name the parts. A showing us the hair shaft. B is the epidermis. C, I think it's a blood capillary. D is showing us a receptor. E, it's the hypodermis or the adipose tissue. And F is a sweat gland. Okay, it is a receptor detecting pressure. That is going to be D, pressure receptor. In response to heat, its functioning is changing in a way which increases the heat loss of the body. We know skin has an important role in thermoregulation, and out of these options, the F, the sweat gland, definitely has an important role. As we can see, it's a tubular coiled exocrine gland, which is releasing the sweat to the surface of the skin, and as it evaporates from the skin, it cools the body. So it has an important role in thermoregulation. And the other one is going to be the blood capillary, so C. It is a layer of heat insulation. That's gonna be E, hypodermis or subcutaneous layer, which is made up of adipose tissue mainly. It is involved in excretion. That is going to be F, so the sweat gland. A particular form of vitamin D is formed here. We know that that's gonna be the epidermis layer, so B. Its pigment cells absorb UV light, and that is also going to be the epidermis layer, so B. Melanocytes, melanin, don't forget what we have discussed about these. Okay, in addition to pressure and touch, the skin is able to detect other type of stimuli. Name these stimuli. You can mention here cold, or hot, or pain. So these kind of stimuli can be detected by your skin as well. Obviously, other alternative answers would be accepted. So let's do the last exercise, exercise 8. Let us breathe deeply. The diagram below shows some parts of the human respiratory system. Name the parts marked by the capital letters and write their names on the dotted line. A is showing us the larynx or the thyroid cartilage. B is the trachea or windpipe. And C's are showing us the primary bronchi. What is the function of the cartilaginous part in the organs marked B and C? These cartilage parts keep the trachea or keep the tubes open all the time, so they prevent the tube from collapsing. Two important parameters of the respiratory system are its minute volume and vital capacity. Explain briefly what is meant by these terms. So let's start with the respiratory minute volume, which is the volume of air exchanged in 1 minute by the lungs. The vital capacity is the maximum volume of air that can be inhaled and exhaled by forced breathing. Don't forget that it is different in case of males and females, and by doing regular physical exercises, you can actually increase your vital capacity. Who would be expected to have the largest vital capacity of the people listed below? Let us assume that the people compared are the same age and weight. Write the letter of the correct answer into the box. Okay, a sportswoman, a woman who does not do any sport, a sportsman, a man who does not do any sport. The people above have similar vital capacity. So immediately we can exclude three possibilities, namely B, D, and E. And out of the first one and the third one, basically the males have larger vital capacities, so C comes to the box. During physical activity, the respiratory minute volume increases. Give the biological reason for this finding. Okay, if you're doing physical exercises, we need more energy and therefore we need more oxygen in order to supply our body's needs. So more oxygen is needed to produce more energy for the body. The respiratory minute volume can be increased by increasing the number of breaths per minute. Explain the other possible mechanism which would increase the minute volume. Okay, so if you increase the volume of air that you breathe in with one breath, that can also increase your respiratory minute volume. Okay, so we finished the 2019 Standard Level Biology Final Exam paper. I hope it was helpful. Should you have any questions, you know where to find me. And I wish you the best of good luck. Bye-bye.